In 3, 2, 1. All right. Here we are on our third episode for our new audio podcast. How you feeling, Tony?
I'm feeling good.
Good. Well, I like what we're going to talk about today. We're going to kind of enter into the holiday season, what that looks like for our community, pregnancy and infant loss. I know for some people out there, someone listening to this podcast, they're dreading the holidays coming.
Right.
And in fact, they're like, you know what? I'm just not going to come out until January 1st. So today we're going to offer 5 tips to hopefully help that person embrace, get through, get over this holiday season.
Yeah.
Cool. Well,
All
welcome.
right. Well, hey, everyone. I'm Tony, and this is...
This is Jeff.
Well, thanks for being here. We're the founders of Our Little Sparrows Pregnancy and Infant Loss Support.
Right.
And we're going to get right to it. So why are the holidays so challenging? Let's talk about that for a minute. Do you want me to go over the first one?
Sure.
Okay. So the first one we have is, I think it's challenging because we have a lot of conflicting emotions. And one, obviously, if you've just gone or have experienced the loss of your baby, or maybe it's still challenging for you, maybe it's your second or third year into loss, holidays can be really hard. It's supposed to be a joyous time. It's supposed to be a happy time. And when you yourself may not be feeling happy and joyous, you're maybe really fresh into your grief or the loss that you've had, and it's hard to feel that happiness and joyous that that you see on the TV commercials and on the holiday movies and things like that. So I think there's a conflict there because maybe you're feeling like you want to be happy, but you're just not able to emotionally. You're dealing with a lot of grief, feelings of grief, and it can just be a really rough time. So I think there's that idea of like, I should be happy, but I'm not kind of thing. So I think that's
like outside pressures, expectations.
Yeah. I mean, and actually that kind of leads into the second point, which is pressure and expectations. And
how did I know?
I don't know. How did you know that? But I don't know. Did you have anything to say about that? Or
No, I think you're right. I think the normal holiday programming that we're used to watching every year, whether we want to or not, Hallmark Channel.
That's not a plug.
No, it's not. Actually, I'd like to boycott Hallmark if I could. Anyhow, I think the traditional holidays out the window. Whatever traditional, is for our family, or whatever's traditional for your family. I think everything's changed, right? I think those are one of the first things we say when we talk to a friend, a neighbor. You just feel different. Nothing's the same anymore. Everything's completely changing. And so I think those expectations, those pressures come from, obviously programming, right? It comes from, holiday movies, holiday talk shows. It also comes from everything you see in the grocery store, everything you see, on display, at your warehouse, Home Depot, Lowe's, all that stuff.
Right.
You're just bombarded with this. You're supposed to be happy. You're supposed to be joyful. This is a joyful, happy time of year.
Right.
And although it's not their fault, it's because our circumstances have changed.
Right.
But yet it doesn't take away from, you do feel expected to be at a certain level of happiness.
Right.
You do feel that pressure of, I still should decorate. I still should put up the tree.
Right. Yeah.
So I think the holiday season brings a lot of undue pressure and unnecessary expectations that we take for granted. Before our loss.
Right.
And after loss, it's just different.
Right.
So you don't feel like you need to live up to it, or maybe you feel like you should, but you can't. Right.
Right.
So there's totally different I think personality, character plays a lot into how it affects you.
Right.
It affects everyone differently.
Yeah.
But I feel like it's inadvertent, these
Mm-hmm.
pressures and expectations. Of course, there's direct pressures and expectations from family members, from
Right.
spouses, from children that just don't understand.
Right.
You know, maybe because their age, they're too young. Like
That's true.
there's a whole gambit
Right.
of scenarios of
Mm-hmm.
where pressure and expectations may come from.
Right. Well, if you think about it, like someone who has not yet experienced loss or have any kind of significant loss,
Mm-hmm.
holidays already have enough pressure and expectations
As it
alone.
is.
There's like
The
so many
perfect gift.
gatherings.
Yeah.
Get all
Gotta
your
make the
Christmas
perfect
gifts.
food.
Yeah, and have it all nicely packaged and everything. And yeah, like gatherings for work or for like family gatherings. There's that pressure and expectation just to be there. But like you mentioned, you kind of have this feeling like you have to be on. Like, you know, you need to be social, you know, kind of in the holiday spirit, whichever one it is.
Right.
And it's hard to do that when you are, you know, going through grief, you know, experiencing the loss of your baby, or
You may want to check out and just take this season off, but you don't feel like you have permission to do that.
Yeah.
There's a lot.
And so there's obligations, you know, that we feel obligated to attend a lot of different functions or just be a certain way or have a certain level of energy throughout the next like 2 months that we have different holidays coming up. So that's a lot to take on. And
I think for us, it was easy just to check out because our loss was in October.
Yeah.
And so it was so early on that when when Halloween rolled around, we just put a bowl of candy out and a note that said take one or take two or whatever it was.
Yeah.
And then when Thanksgiving rolled around, we just stayed home. When Christmas rolled around, we just stayed home.
Well, yeah, we went home to
Canada,
Canada,
to your family.
Right.
But it was very low key. It's not what my family puts on for Christmas, which is different in its own right. But yeah, for the most part, we gave ourselves permission to do or not do certain things during the holiday season.
Right.
So
yeah,
and neither one of our families expected. In fact, they didn't say a whole lot.
Yeah.
They kind of just let us decide, which is ideal.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sure that doesn't happen for a lot of families.
Yeah. All right. So the next challenge is energy. And by energy, I mean physical energy.
Right.
So grieving can take a lot of physical energy from you. So there's a lot of like fatigue, tiredness. You might even actually be feeling some like physical pains and aches that you can experience through grief or because of grief. So that can take a toll on your body, and then come up, you know, with the holidays coming up and all those expectations and things that you have to get done, that just kind of adds to your depleted energy level, and your capacity to complete those tasks seems really overwhelming. So that is another challenge that, you know, grievers face, just physically not having that energy level.
Yeah. I mean, I think that almost goes hand in hand with just that numbness and that sense of like you're lost, like disoriented, right? I think all those kind of tie in together. Disorientation of you know, normalcy, of patterns. Everything's broken.
Right.
It's very interesting. I mean, that was our experience, that, you know, normal patterns kind of all got put to the side as we were reevaluating what had just happened and how that is going to affect us moving forward. And I think a lack of energy goes right, you know, in tandem with that. It falls right in line with that, because I think that lack of energy is from the feeling, the sense of loss, the sense of disorientation.
Yeah,
it's numbing, right? And that's the numbness is there too, and it's a numbness of kind of like your perception of life is numbed for the moment because you're in shock of the severity at which, you know, you lost your child, or losing a child can be, you know, very severe to our emotions, our psyche, and our ability, our capacity to bounce back is different. Everyone's capacity to bounce back, whatever back is, right? is different for everyone. And so for, what may take you a short amount of time may take me longer,
right,
and vice versa. It could be the other way. What took me a shorter amount of time took you longer.
right.
And that can vary in a whole bunch of different categories of our recovery, if you want to call it recovery. But it's that learning to grapple with our grief, learning to, really defining for ourselves, what does that grief mean for us? What is that going to look like moving forward? That was always on the forefront of my mind, is like, okay, we're in this position. I have no power to change it. So what do I have control? I have control over deciding, what are we going to do moving forward? What am I going to do personally? And then what are you and what I are going to do as a family, as as partners, as a couple, as married, married couple. And that was really, and I didn't rush it. Like there were times where I wanted to, but then I lost that energy, just went out.
Yeah.
So my energy was like this.
Right.
I don't know about you.
Yeah.
But mine was up, and then it was down, and then it was up, and then it was down.
I think that's something, that I had to learn too, because it was up and down. It was all over the place. And sometimes you just kind of have to kind of learn to roll with it, especially in that first.
It's almost like you have to listen to your body thing, right? You know how they say, listen to your body will tell you.
Yeah.
Like if you get a sports injury, if you get an injury in general, you have to listen to your body.
Right.
Right. There's the physical healing, but then there's something different that's internal.
Right.
And you have to listen. I like that. I totally agree with that.
Yeah. It's definitely something I had to learn for myself. So.
Right. I mean, you have to listen, but I should preface with, you have to do good things for yourself. You have to get a decent amount of sleep. You have to eat healthy food. Junk out. I mean, there's going to be stressful times, and you're going to hit the junk food. But obviously, what we put in is what we're going to get out.
Right.
Too. So.
Well, don't jump too far ahead.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Is that one of the 5?
Might be one of our special.
It might be.
Special tips.
Yeah.
All right. So one of the last things we have as a challenge that we face as grieving.
Right,
parents
and you
families,
may be facing too.
Is that the holidays are centered around families. And so there's a lot of focus on kids. Maybe this was supposed to be your baby's first Halloween or Thanksgiving and Christmas, and that can be really hard is when you're out and about and you're seeing all these kids, having a lot of good time. If you're seeing another family with their new baby, and that can bring up a lot of emotions and sadness because that was supposed to be also for you and your new baby.
Right.
And unfortunately, your baby died for whatever reason. Your baby's not with you, and so that can bring up a lot of just really hard feelings, or I don't know if hard's the right word, but like just feelings.
I think it can be overwhelming.
Yeah.
Right. It can flood. Your emotions can just come flooding back, and you have these flashes of what you wish would have been, it's like, I'm thinking of grief recovery. Yeah. I'm thinking more, better, different,
better, or more
what you wanted.
Yeah.
In your expectations, right?
Right.
Your hopes, your dreams, your expectations, all those things changed.
So I think that's one of the main reasons why it's so hard, is because it's such a family time.
Everything reminds you of what would have been,
what was supposed to be. Right. And that's really hard for people, and it was hard for us as well. So we do have some tips to share with you.
Let's get into those 5.
And these are things that helped us. And so we just want to share them with you, and hopefully they help you as well as you navigate this delicate holiday season. So,
right. I mean, for the most part, these are fairly simple, fairly straightforward, but I think we just want people to know that we're thinking of you and we're here to support you, and you're not alone.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's mainly what this is all about.
All right. So tip number 1, and you've already talked about this, is that we need to take care of ourselves. So take care of yourself.
Take care of yourself. Yeah.
So, and
making good choices,
as much as you can. And there's going to be days where you're not, you might just want to reach for, that comfort food or not, just stay indoors all the time.
Yeah.
And
I'm currently doing keto, so I just think of cheat days. It's like I get a cheat day. It's like, no, you're not supposed to. But anyhow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean,
don't be too hard on yourself.
Yeah, don't be hard on yourself. Take it one day at a time. When you can, get good rest, get a nutritious meal and add water, or hydrate yourself, to your regular diet or whatever, eating that you have.
I think we all know what's healthy and what's not.
Yeah.
In general.
And just start with small things. It doesn't have to be like a huge lifestyle change right away. I mean, especially if you're, just in the freshness of grief, then it's just.
I mean, in general, you never want to go to extremes.
Yeah.
So
it's in mainly like, especially within that first year, it's really difficult, to.
You need to give yourself a lot of grace.
Yeah, make a really significant change. So, just learning baby steps to take care of yourself, and especially in the holiday season when it can be really overwhelming. Allow yourself some space to get some fresh air. Take a breather, and
maybe you can find another mom to do it with.
Yeah.
That's good. That's not a bad idea.
So physically, yes. And so those are some physical things. Emotionally, as you just said, find a friend, find a supportive person that you can call or text on the phone, or go for a walk with, someone, if you are believing in prayer, someone that you can pray with, someone that you can just trust and that you can just kind of, you feel safe with, to just have that person just to kind of let you be, be where you're at and not have to feel like you have to be a certain way or say certain things. So.
And it might be another lost mom, another, mom that their baby had died. So, yeah.
So emotionally, just having that person there to support you is gonna help you through a lot of those tough days. So number 2, it's okay to say no. So allowing yourself permission to say no to going to certain functions or certain activities that the holidays brings, talking about that pressure and expectations, kind of knowing what is your limit, what is your capacity, what can you do, and what is your limit, and allowing yourself to say no thank you, to those, and it might be, a family gathering that you've been to every year and your family's expecting you to be there, but maybe you're just not up for it, and allow yourself some grace. If you really don't feel like you are up for it, gracefully and kindly just say no thank you. And you explain to them why, if they're confused. This could be an opportunity to help people be aware of how difficult pregnancy and infant loss can be. And a lot of times people might think, it was just early pregnancy loss. They might assume that it's something that is easy to get through or over, and it may not be. And if that's something that maybe people need to be a little bit more educated on, is just to have that conversation, say, actually, no, it's really I'm really struggling and I'm really missing,
It's interesting because it goes back to that common conversation is like, they don't get it. They're the things they say are hurtful. It's painful to be in the same room because they say insensitive things. And the irony of it is that we're the victim of baby death. Our baby died. That's a huge loss to us. But it's interesting because although we're the ones that it happened to, it actually is important that we become our own, advocates, at the same time setting boundaries, right? And so I almost feel like it's twofold, right? It's setting those boundaries, knowing first, this is what I'm okay doing, this is what I'm not okay doing. And then once you set those boundaries, for yourself or between you, for yourself, between you and yourself, or between you and your partner, or you and your spouse, or whoever you decide to include on that, then when you have to explain yourself to someone, you don't do it in such a way that it's like, well, I told myself I wasn't going to do this or anything like that. You advocate for yourself, and you say, I'm not going to put myself in this position because of XYZ.
Right. Yeah.
And you may not realize that that's the effect that it has on someone, who's lost their baby, but that's exactly why I'm not going to the Christmas party.
Right.
Or the family gathering, because some people, their annual, their family reunions are always during the holiday times or whatever,
right?
Whether it's on the holiday or not. But even those are things that are hard to show up for. But yeah, you are your best advocate. You are the best person to tell people why you're not going to be coming. You're not going to make it, because it's not their life experience. Right. They didn't experience the death of their child. You did.
Right.
So I'm not saying it's easy.
No.
But I'm saying that that's the way to put your best foot forward and keep the insensitive comments to a minimum by, number one, not putting yourself in that position, saying this is my boundary. I won't go to that person for that kind of support because they can't support me that way. It's just not in their makeup. It's not who they are. Right. So that's a boundary, and then if you do have to tell the person that's putting on the event that I'm not going to make it, you have to also be willing to back that up and advocate why, so that it's advocate, same synonymous. You have to educate others what you're experiencing, what you're going through. Yeah. And whether they choose to accept that or not, that's different. Yeah. That's on them. But it's part of the journey, right? And it's very healing, right? It's good.
It's something we all have to learn, and that's probably something that's like a whole other podcast episode we could talk about for sure, right?
I mean, it's ongoing. You can talk about birthday parties, you can talk about baby showers, you can talk about family reunions, you can talk about holidays, and no matter, or anyhow, you could talk about those things, and every time you talk about those things, you still talk about boundaries and educating others about what you've experienced and what you're going through. Yeah. It never ends. Right. Right.
Right. Start small. I mean, keep it simple is what I'm
trying to say. It sounds overwhelming, and maybe it is. Right. Right. You can only do so much. You do the best you can. But know that no one else is really going to advocate or educate for you like you can do for yourself. Right. So baby steps, that's terrible. Anyhow, small steps, and lead to bigger steps, lead to bigger conversations that you're willing and able to have as you build that confidence and as you build that understanding of how to share with others, because there's definitely there's a good way to share, there's a good way to educate, and then there's not a good way, right? And you'll learn that along the way.
Well, yeah, I mean, that is definitely another podcast episode that we should touch on, because there's so much more that we could say about that. So let's keep going here. So our next tip is actually,
it's a good thing we started an audio podcast, right? They're meant to go longer.
Okay. Okay.
So
in the same way, allowing yourself to say no. Point 3 is allowing yourself to say yes. Right. So allowing yourself to do what you enjoy of the season, right? And
don't punish yourself. Don't hide.
If you don't if it's something, it's just, you gotta evaluate yourself, and this could be something like you do daily or moment by moment. It could change. Like, you might feel up for it one day, but the next day you may not be up to going to that holiday party or the Halloween event. So just a self-evaluation as to what is your capacity, what do you want to do, how do you want to spend these holidays. Do you want to spend it with your family, with your friends, or is it something you want to just rather keep low key to yourself and your immediate family or your spouse? And allow yourself to say yes to those things. You know, holidays, as hard as it can be for many grieving parents, there are still some joyful moments. And I think sometimes we get on this thought that I have to be sad, you know, through the holidays, and we can get ourselves on that kind of emotional mental track. But we also can allow ourselves to feel those good moments, feel those good feelings of happiness, excitement, anticipation. And I mean, even though our loss was in October and the holidays were basically right there, you know, I still wanted to experience Christmas, you know, and you know, I love Christmas, so I'm jumping, like I could skip over Halloween and Thanksgiving and just go right to Christmas. But it was hard, but I still wanted to enjoy certain aspects of Christmas. So it's okay to have those good moments and create memories or whatnot. And so we did find a way to do that and still have time to remember and honor our daughter within those Christmas or holiday festivities. And so and it began a tradition, you know. So every year now I like to pick out ornaments for the tree that have our daughter's name and now our son and our youngest daughter Audrey's name. So that's something I like to do. So allow yourselves to do the things that you like and are up for, and allow yourself to say no to those things that you just don't feel you can handle. And it's not to say that's going to be the same every year. It could be different the next year. You might be up for a little bit more, and that's okay. Yeah. Okay.
I have nothing to add on that. I agree. Okay. You definitely don't want to feel pressured to do things. You know, just do what you feel interested in doing. And sometimes, okay, I guess I have something to say. So sometimes we do say, yeah, I do, you know, the leaves are falling, it's fall time. I want to, you know, for us, I want to go up to Apple Hill, just the two of us, or just our family, however many that is, immediate, and then grab some donuts and a coffee and maybe buy a frozen pie and come home, right? That kind of thing. But when we get there, and we may feel overwhelmed, so we have to, you know, we have to know our boundaries again. And even though that's something that you wanted to step out and do, you may not be able to do everything
that you wanted
during that day that you wanted to do, but at least you made a step, you know, a step forward into something that you enjoyed in the past and still enjoyed doing moving forward. So no pressure to like complete whatever you started, but at least you started it. Right.
And I think too, I mean, this goes on to another topic, but if you're checking yourself, like self-evaluating, what is your capacity, are you wanting to do, or what are you not wanting to do, and then communicating that to, especially if you have a spouse or a partner that you're with, and because they may or may not feel the same way. So important to talk it over and just let each other know, I feel this way. I feel up for going to Apple Hill right now, but once we get there, I might feel a little differently about our plans for today. So just allowing yourselves to be flexible.
Sure.
Yeah.
Cool.
So.
Okay. Tip number 4, since you've done tip 1 through 3.
Sorry.
That's okay. So the 4th tip we have is surrounding yourself with the people that truly support you. So hopefully that's your partner, the baby's dad, or mom. Hopefully that's, you know, your spouse, whatever that situation is. But if not, then obviously there's other parents of pregnancy and infant loss. Maybe there's a local nonprofit. You know, you're going to the grief support groups or the support groups in general already, and then you can find a friendship, build a friendship from there. I mean, that's very common. But you definitely want someone, like I said earlier, you have to know boundaries, right? And if you know that that's a person that won't be able to support you emotionally or spiritually or whatever level that, you know, whatever it is that you know that you need, then obviously that's a boundary that you would have with that person, whether they know it or not. That's I wouldn't recommend telling them I have a boundary against you. It's like, no. But knowing your boundaries with certain people, and then obviously you want a support person that can respond.
Yes.
Whether it's a mom of loss or not,
Right.
you want someone that can respond to you and fills a need that you have emotionally or spiritually, or just a good listener,
space.
you know, a safe space, someone that respects your thoughts, you sharing your emotions with them, and responds in kind.
Right.
Yeah. I think that's important.
Yeah, you definitely want to have that positive support, and you know, one that's gonna, you know, it doesn't necessarily have to be a person who's experienced pregnancy or infant loss or even loss in general.
Right.
It's just a person that has like that empathy and that understanding that life, that where you're at in your life right now is really difficult, and certain things are, you know, can cause triggers, and just has that understanding that, you know, things, you just might need that extra space, or you just might need that extra time to do whatever it is. And so, and that person who could also be like, you know, maybe you could invite them to go with you to whatever that function you feel like you need to go to, and they can help you if you need an out, if you need, you know, to get out of that environment, they can help you, or, you know, it's nice to have those kind of supportive people. So surround yourself with that. And, yeah. Those are really
definitely someone who's sensitive to your loss, and sensitive to what you're going through, because then they're receptive, right? Oh, that's the 30-minute.
Oh man, we are.
That was
30
pretty.
minutes.
That was pretty dramatic. I think I had the volume way up on that.
Well, well, we have one tip left. Can we do it?
Well, there we go. So, okay, so we have to wrap it up.
Yep, let's
That
do
was
it.
30 minutes.
Okay, so
tip number 5.
Tip number 5 is, again, is giving back, but again, checking yourself as to what is your capacity. You know, don't want to overdo it if you're not able to.
Right. And give yourself grace, because you're not going to know.
Right.
Sometimes you're not going to know until you go to do it, and you're like, oh, that
was maybe too much.
I can't do that.
Yeah.
Right.
So what we mean by giving back is, and it can be something as simple as just as donating money to a nonprofit or organization of your choice.
Right.
Maybe in memory of your baby. It can be volunteering for another organization, helping, I don't know, a lot of organizations need help around this time of year. Yep. So
this may not be something that's easy to do the first year, but as the years go by, and this may not be the right way to say it, but as you mature in your journey, as you mature in your journey, there's certain things that will just pop into your head, and you're like, oh, I want to go do that. Yeah. And as simple as going to a food bank and packing boxes and handing them out to families, or donating, like you said, to a nonprofit, maybe specifically for pregnancy and infant loss. I mean, those things will. Yeah. I think the way that we recognize our sons, our daughters, our babies over the years changes, right? It just evolves, and it seems like for us, like this October is 8 years since Olivia, our firstborn, and losing her on our 5th wedding anniversary, and it's like now, you know, as I get further away, it may be different for you, but as I get further away or up in years in her age, it's almost like the way I think about her matures, the way I want to honor her in certain ways matures, and it doesn't feel so like emotionally devastating as it does maybe for me it's like building upon memorializing her and doing it in different ways as the years go on. And what was so emotional and so hard to even deal with or even broach, the situation or the conversation around her birthday, around, the birth of our son James, who's technically younger than her, but yet as he matures, he still sees her as a baby.
Yeah.
Like all those things just change your whole world, right? And so I feel like the older she would have been, 8 years now, and the further we get in life from that experience 8 years ago, that there's a maturing sense that evolves, and it's not so much of an emotional devastating loss. Now it's like, what am I gonna do with that experience? And it builds upon itself year after year.
Yeah.
There's a maturing, because then
growth.
you also, there's growth, because you also feel like I can help. I can help a mom. I can help a dad. I can't tell them how to heal. I can't tell them how to feel better, but I feel like that I can support them better as the years go on. Like there's a maturing there, to support those who are beginning their journey, or early on in it, and maybe struggling.
Yeah.
I'd say for me the struggle has gotten less, but it's not like 8 years less. It's like, okay, on a scale of 1 to 10, I don't feel like a 10, and 10 being the just really in a lot of pain from the loss, day one. On a scale of 1 to 10, I feel like maybe I'm at a 7, an 8. Like it's still I cry, when I think about her, or if I have a conversation with someone and I tell them about our journey, and it starts from when we lost Olivia, or leading, when we got pregnant and leading up to, then I cry, man, and it's very overwhelming for me. But then if I have general conversations where I talk about, the do's and don'ts, how to talk to relatives, how to set those boundaries, how to set those expectations, that's a different conversation, and I'm not nearly as emotional.
Right.
So there's that too. I just feel like there's a maturing that happens, as you get further away from that, from the loss, and
it's not that we've forgotten about her.
Gosh, no. And it's not a dulling either. No, it's not a dulling of the emotions.
It's different. It's definitely different. It's not, like as raw, when you have a wound, it's, really raw at first, but then it, eventually kind of, the rawness goes away. There's still a longing,
it's
and a
imprinted
missing
on us.
Yeah.
That's part of our timeline. That's part of our experience in this journey in life.
Yeah.
That doesn't change.
Right.
But I think the way that we react to that memory, the way we react to those emotions, the way those emotions come back to the surface in different unique ways, sometimes out of left field, and other times it's like, man, I remember having that same conversation and being completely emotional, or emotionally overwhelming, but when I had that same conversation just now with someone else, for some reason it wasn't on the same emotional level.
Right. I would think
you can't explain that.
It's different.
It's hard to explain.
Almost every moment, or every time you have a conversation.
Yeah.
Your emotions and, just even the environment or the person that you're talking to, there's lots of different factors.
Right.
As to.
And your level of vulnerability. I think that's a huge factor.
Yeah. So.
The more vulnerable you are,
it's not going to be the same every time you talk to someone about it.
No.
So, and that's okay. So.
Right. But giving back to another lost family, another family of pregnancy and infant loss, through a support group and financially supporting that, or volunteering as the years go on, as the months or years go on, and you feel comfortable and ready to do so. Right. Obviously, there's volunteer opportunities with those organizations.
Yeah. And we've seen people do things like, collecting toys for the age that your baby would have been in this holiday season, and donating it to an organization that's distributing toys for families in need, or things like that. That's a good way to get involved. And you could, maybe make a tradition out of it if you want. But again, it's also, checking yourself every time. It's like, what is your capacity?
Right.
What can you handle? What do you want to do? What do you need to let go of this year? So, and just allowing yourself permission to do all of that.
Yeah.
Yes or no.
Yes or no. Cool.
Yeah. So.
Those are 5 good tips. So just, take care of yourself. Is tip number 1. Tip number 2, it's okay to say no. Tip number 3, it's okay to say yes. Tip number 4, surround yourself with the people who truly support you. And the 5th and final tip was giving back, donating and volunteering.
Yeah.
That's good. Good stuff.
All right.
Well, we hope this helped.
Yeah.
I mean, as always, we want everyone to know, we want you to know, if you're listening, that you are loved and that you're not alone and that your babies, all of our babies, will always be remembered. Well, if you got value out of this episode and you want to watch our next podcast episode where we address who is our little sparrows, you can click or tap on the image above. If you click or tap below, you can join us on our grief series, The Pregnancy Journey, grieving from diagnosis to the loss of your baby and beyond. Thanks for joining us.